Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and today I think it's about time we start having a look into why Harry wasn't running as well as I hoped on the dyno. Alright guys, thanks for joining me again, and if you are enjoying the videos on the 911s or any of my crazy projects, please think about subscribing. It does help us out, so just click that button and ring the little bell to let you know when I've put something else up. So those of you who have been following will have seen that I took Harry to the dyno a couple of weeks ago, and I was a little bit disappointed with the results that I got on the dyno. And I think there was some misconception about why I was upset. I mean, I think a lot of people were just sort of concerned because I didn't make the power number that I was looking for. And that's slightly upsetting. I did want to make over 200 horsepower at the wheels and I made 197. But that was less of the issue. The fact is that it's not running the way it should have been running. I spoke to Neil at Performance Developments, and the cam that he designed should make torque, peak torque, up until close to 7,000 RPM. It should be making, it's quite a, quite a peaky cam that he's got in there. I am pretty confident that I did the cam timing and everything perfectly as per the specs that the cam was designed for. So I don't see that as being the issue, but it could be. At this stage, we just don't know. A lot of people, heaps of people brought up the issue about the exhaust. And the fact is that you did see me building that bimodal exhaust that I made up for the car, and I've never actually run it on the car. I haven't put the heat shielding in there yet, and it didn't sound very good, and it didn't make any difference with the valves open and closed. So I've just put it aside for the time being, and I may go back there and play around with it again some other time. But at the moment, I was just happy enough to run the car with the original exhaust, so the same exhaust that I had on it when I dynoed it the first time. And that is where it brings me to one of the first main issues, is if I'll bring up a picture here of the dyno chart, and you can see that the red line is actually where, that's the original dyno run I did when I only revved it to 6,000 RPM. And it was making a whole bunch more torque and power over the whole range in that. And it was a similar temperature day, same dyno operator, same settings, and it was making quite a bit less power than that. And the issue that I had on the day itself, as you can see from the dyno curve, and particularly the torque curve, is how the torque sharply drops off at 6,000 RPM, which is not the way that this cam should work. This engine should be making more torque past that. It shouldn't drop off sharply at 6,000 RPM like that. So something is not working the way it should. As I said, peak numbers vary everywhere, all over the world, different dynos, different operators. For some reason, I've had friends who've had cars dynoed in Australia, and it seems like we have very conservative numbers coming from our dynos here. They've shipped them overseas and suddenly gained 20% on their power figure with no modifications to the car. Just run it from Australian dyno to somewhere else. So I don't really care about the number, to be honest. Like, the number is more irrelevant, is more just getting the car working properly. So I've got some ideas about checking this, and to be able to work out whether I've found the issue or not, I was trying to work out a way to actually get a baseline and work out if my changes are making any difference. I don't want to take it to the dyno all the time, because the dyno is something I have to book out quite a bit in advance. It's very expensive. It's about $220 an hour, and that's, these were 4-hour times both times. They weren't just power runs; they were going and it was full tuning. I don't want to keep going back to the dyno. It's not something that's practical to do. So I was trying to come up with a way to quantify how the car's running now, and I actually downloaded a couple of these 0 to 100 apps, like timing apps. The trouble is that there's too many inconsistencies. It's too hard to get an accurate 0 to 100 in time in this car, particularly with a 915 gearbox. You have to change casually from first to second gear. You can't, if you try and go fast, it will crunch every time. And 0 to 100 times, very too much as far as how well you launch, how well you take off. So there's just too many variables to get an accurate, repeatable system. So what I have come up with, so I'm going to have the cameras rolling in the car. I'm going to pick a marker on a consistent piece of road that I can use, and I will take off from in second gear at very low revs so that we can see the torque at low revs, and rev it out in second gear and time it from one mark on the road, a post or something, to another point, and hopefully we'll be able to overlay those images and see if we've made a difference. So that's the most accurate, repeatable method I can come up with to test the car. So I think the time now is to get in the car, get some cameras set up, and go and get a baseline. Alright, so I'm on a nice straight flat country road, and I'm going to find a nice repeatable stretch where I can set the car up. I'm going to set it down in about 2000 RPM in second gear, so nice and low in the rev range. I'm going to try and cruise at that speed to a mark, and then I'm going to put my foot down until I get to basically to 7000 RPM. My tacho is not the most reliable, but I should be able to repeat this and overlay videos next to each other so I can see which one, if I'm actually faster from point to point. So it should be reasonably repeatable. Alright, I found my starter mark. Nice and easy to remember. Let's get it down to 2000 RPM. Right on 2000 RPM, and go. Limit. All right, let's try it again, and go. So we have our baseline. It's time to head back now and see if we can do some diagnosis and see if we can work out what I'm missing and what is not going the way it was going before. All right, so we've got our baseline now. Hopefully that will work. I still haven't looked at the footage yet or how I'm going to sort of make sure it's all working the way it's supposed to, but that should be good. So now I need to go through and start eliminating some of the possibilities on this car that could have been the issue. Now, a lot of people asked about the fuel at the top end. The air fuel ratio was fine the whole way along, so it wasn't the... I very much doubt it's fuel pressure, because as I said, the fuel pressure was good, the air fuel ratio was good, we weren't leaning out at the top end, so we weren't running out of fuel, so I don't believe that is the issue. So if we can sort of dismiss fuel for the time being, the main issues that it could really be is there's either it's not getting enough air into the car, so the ITBs and stuff are a restriction, and they're not flowing enough air at the top end of the rev range, which is a possibility. I can't remember what size the actual ITBs are, but these are all built for the size of the inlet port. It is the standard 2.7 head inlet, so it's relatively small size. I think it's 34, 38 millimeter. I can't remember exactly, but it's something around that. So we did work out on the dyno that the air filters were making zero restriction, because we ran it back to back with and without the air filters, and it didn't lose 1 horsepower. So it's not the air filters. The exhaust, as I said, is the same as the first time. So the exhaust may not be the best exhaust around, but it lost power from the first time. So that is less likely of the issue. So the next things we need to make sure of is we need to go back and confirm that we're getting wide open throttle. That's the first thing I'm going to check. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get Mrs. Jeff in the car. She's going to press the accelerator down, and we're going to have a look at the butterflies straight down the top and see if we're getting wide open throttle. Just give it blips of the throttle and see if it works. All right, and go. And again. All right, well, that looks like we're actually getting wide open throttle. So I don't think the throttle is the issue. So considering everything else is pretty much the same, the next thing to check is spark. So to check the spark, I've actually got this, this classic retrofit rear fuse panel that I reused in the back here. So now this is set up so that the lower fuse is actually the fuse for the main power, everything going to the ECU. The top fuse is for the top bank of coil packs, and the other fuse, because this is a twin plug car, the middle fuse is for the lower bank of coil packs. So I should be able to start the car, get it idling, and if I remove either of these fuses and the engine note changes, we know we have an issue with one or other of the banks of coil packs, because this car is obviously originally designed to be a single spark engine. These are just designed to help out at the top end, so it should idle just as well on one bank of coil packs as it does on two. So let's start up and give it a try. Oi! Well, that is very interesting. So when I removed the top fuse, so basically I disconnected the top set of coil packs, so it's just running on the lower set, the revs noticeably dropped. But it did the same thing also when I disconnected the lower set of coil packs. The revs noticeably dropped, and the engine laboured more. I couldn't hear if it was necessarily missing. Either way, that tells me that there's something not, probably one coil pack at the top and one coil pack at the bottom are not performing as they should. Now, it could be spark plug, could be coil pack, could be a combination of the two, could be my dodgy wiring. So that is actually quite telling, because if they're not firing the way that they're supposed to, then the engine is actually not making the power it should. It wouldn't work at its best at the top of the rev range, which to me sounds like that is more than likely what my issue is. So that was quite quick and easy to actually diagnose. So now it's time to go through and start testing out all of the coil packs to see which ones aren't working. Now, thankfully, within the Link software, it actually makes it really easy to test the coil packs, because I can just go base into the ignition test and I can turn on each bank of coil packs individually. Ignition 1 will do cylinder 1, top and bottom, and I'll be able to test, because you'll be able to hear them ticking and see if the coil packs are the issue. Well, of course, that would be too easy, but no, all of the coil packs sound like they're working, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all of the spark plugs are actually firing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get the engine running. I'm going to disconnect the top row of coil packs and have them shut down, and I'm going to go through and disconnect a coil pack at a time, just unplug it, and when I come across the one that doesn't make a difference in the engine revving, that should tell me which one is not working. All the coil packs, when they're tested individually, all work. And when I'm only running one bank or the other and I disconnect one of them, the engine struggles. So it's definitely missing when I disconnect one, but that none of them didn't make a difference, if you know what I mean. I know when I first set the engine up and I disconnected one bank or the other of spark plugs, the engine didn't notice a difference. All right, well, I tried then using my power probe to basically send ground through to the ground that's connected to this system, and that didn't seem to make a difference. Whereas when I disconnected the fuse, if I sent power directly to that circuit, it instantly made a difference on that on the idle of the engine. So there's something going on there. This thing is fantastic, by the way. So yeah, basically I press up, it sends 12 volts out, and press down, it sends ground out from the end. So super handy. I'll put a link in the description to one of these. I swear by this for doing electrical testing. But it's still got me stumped why it makes such a difference. It should not make a difference at idle pulling one of those fuses. I'm going to pass it over to you guys. Do any of you have a possible solution for me? Because yeah, that's just, at the moment, it's not cool. It's not working the way it's supposed to, and it's really driving me crazy. So yes, please comment, send me the right direction. All right, so the next thing I want to tackle is, some of you have noticed in some of my previous videos that the tacho in this car bounces around all over the place. Basically, it's not damping enough so that when I accelerate hard, particularly in lower gears, it's sort of, when the revs move around, it bounces around all over the place and then takes a while to settle back down again. So I did look at trying to potentially rebuild the tacho myself, but it doesn't look like there's any of the sort of the parts are available to do it yourself. Really, it's only the guys who specialize in rebuilding these instruments are the ones who've got the stuff. If anybody does have any links to rebuilding the tacho, I'd be interested if this does not work. I looked into issues that people have had on other cars with tachos not working properly, and they suggested to use a half watt 10,000 ohm resistor. Now, I know nothing about electrical stuff. I am a complete novice, but this cost me $7 delivered for 100 of them because I couldn't get just one. So what I'm going to do is, it's going to be quite simple. Basically, I'm just going to take out one resistor, put a plug on either end of it, and plug it in line with the existing signal from the ECU to the tacho. And my theory is that if the signal is not as powerful going to the tacho, that it'll take longer to actually register on the tacho, so it's not going to jump so quickly when the revs move. I don't know if I'm completely misguided in that, probably am, but let's give it a try. There it is, all finished up, ready to go in. So. Well, that doesn't seem to have fixed my issue. That tacho is terrible. So, well, I'm not having much luck today, and it's a sweltering day here, so I'm sweating it out here, and so far I'm 0 for 2. So any suggestions you guys have, if any of you have an idea on how I can make that tacho not bounce so much, a DIY version. Last thing I'm going to try and tackle for today is I have my clock. I've just pulled it out. Now it's time to start pulling this apart and see if I can get this working, see if I can fix something today. I start with, I got a very slim screwdriver and just pried it up, as you saw me doing, prying it up all the way around until I could just sort of get it off of the edge. I undid the screws on the back, and then there's this earth connection right here. I've got to desolder that now, and then I should be able to get the whole mechanism out of the clock. All right, well, that is 0 for 3. So I pulled the clock apart, and I've had a look, and I actually bought myself some 100 UF capacitors to replace the ones in here. And I realised that my clock's different to the other ones that I've seen of these electric clocks. There are mechanical clocks that were also problematic, but this one is a quartz movement. But this has 47 UF capacitors in it, so I'll have to try and order them. A lot of these clocks seem to sometimes run and then just stop, whereas mine seems to run all the time but loses about half an hour a day or something like that, so it runs slow. That's disappointing. I'm going to partially reassemble it now just so that I keep all the bits together and wait to see what I can find out. So overall, not the most successful day I've had in the garage. I haven't really sorted anything out, but discovering that the spark issue really, if I'm not getting full spark, and that could be definitely a reason why a torque would drop off heavily at 6,000 RPM, because it's just not providing enough spark at that level, and the power just drops straight off. So I think it's something we can get on top of. I have my baseline test now. I can use that for any improvements in the future, just going forward. Overall, Harry is still great to drive. I'm really enjoying using it every day. It's been my daily driver for a lot of them. I've actually been using it way more than Archie. It's just such a nice, fun car to drive. I'm just so happy with it. So hopefully you've enjoyed this, and if you have any suggestions, please let me know. And if you want to help out with these crazy projects to make sure I can keep moving forward and doing more crazy stuff, join us on Patreon and you get to watch the videos and ad-free 24 hours before everybody else. All right, well, that's it for this one. We'll catch you on the next one. See you guys.